All right. Good morning, Ajifatu.
Good morning, Aji.
Aji, sorry for the waiting room, but we had a staff meeting. I know you were here at 8:10.
All right. Good morning, Ajifatu.
Good morning.
Aji, did you get my email last night?
Uh-huh.
So I was in the process of creating the group activities. So I was creating a Jamboard, and Aji, as soon as I sent the share, Aji jumps into the Jamboard. I'm like, Aji, go do something else. I don't want you to see what I'm doing. I was like, Aji's such a good student. She's like, I got a notification. I'm getting ready to work. I was like, no, not yet, not yet.
And
How do you spell her name?
Who, Hermione?
Yeah.
H-E-R.
I got it. No, I don't.
You got
H-E-R.
M-A-Y-O-N-I. Hermione.
H-E-R-O.
H-E-R-M-A-Y-O-N-I.
Hermione Polanco Batista.
Yes.
Got it. Because there's a few of them in here. Okay,
All right,
we're
guys.
good. She's
The other Hermione is me.
Yeah. Don't get them confused.
all right.
Okay.
Sent.
So we're going to begin because I want to try to get through some things, and our
Morning,
time is
Emmanuel.
limited. So good morning, Emmanuel. Let's begin. So yesterday we had the opportunity to go a little bit further into getting to know a little bit about our author, Jasmine. And I'm going to share that really quickly. I'm going to take about 5 minutes just to go through that and then explain what we're doing today. Okay. All righty. I'm assuming you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So let me find our day 3. Oh, sorry. Wrong one. I thought that was day 3. Guess I closed it. All right, let's just go here. So really quickly, we're just going to refresh our memory for those who weren't here, and for those who are here, you get an opportunity to see what it is you need to work on. And thank you to those who have been handing in your work. Everything is graded. For those of you who have not submitted any work, your grade is a 55 at the moment, and you need to get that done. So for Emmanuel, who I think was absent for a while, we've moved on to day 3 of our unit of conflict and its complications. And we started a conversation around what is central idea in a story. So for the past few days, we've been looking at conflict and how conflict tends to drive the actions of the main character. Hence the term conflicts and its complications. Like, what does conflict do? How does it affect or drive the actions of our characters, right? What are the complications that come up? That's basically what this unit is about. That's what we're trying to make sure we understand by the end of this unit. So we began with identifying the types of conflicts that are out there. And then we moved further into the central idea of a story. Good readers need to know what it's about. And there is a formula that we talked about where you add the topic, which is a one-word representation of the story, or maybe a few words. And then the argument, meaning the supporting details, the evidence that supports that topic, which becomes the point of that story. And then you put those together, you come up with the central idea. So with that said, we went on and we read a poem by William Shakespeare, and we agreed that the topic, that one word topic for that particular poem, that continuous topic that kept coming up was love, and that there was evidence that showed that Shakespeare was trying to say that love doesn't change. Hence, we were able to come up with our central idea. So with that said, we moved on and we started to take a look at award-winning author. Her name is Jasmine, who has had a lot of conflict in her life. And we were able to identify that she had a loss in terms of a death in the family, more than one death in the family over her lifetime, which we all know would fall under the character versus self, as well as sometimes character versus society or character versus character, depending on how the story is being told. And we found out that because of the death of her husband from COVID-19, it helped to push some of the writings that she has. So there was one particular personal essay that we were asked to read, and it was called On Witness and Despair, a personal tragedy followed by a pandemic. And within that, students were able to summarize within the note catcher what conflicts they saw, and then give a one-word topic, like we did in the upper part of the activity, around Jasmine's grief, loss, pain, and then you had to give 3 examples of those particular instances where you see that it supports the topic. Then you had to tell me what the central idea was. I thank you to those who did it. Those who did it did a fantastic job. Matthew, I enjoyed your writing. Ajifatu, I enjoyed your writing. I saw that you guys were able to pinpoint and pull out what was needed, okay? Because of time and pacing, I'm not going to pull up what we did yesterday. So Emmanuel and anyone else who's absent, I urge you to watch the class video that Mr. Cruz posted on the classroom page, so you can get an idea of the modeling that took place and that you'll be able to hand in yours. I'll remind folks, I'll go back to the classroom, that everything is on the classwork section of your classroom. So again, unit 2 and each section that we need to do weekly or daily is underneath your unit. In terms of the videos or materials, we have our class recordings. So the last class recording showcases what I just talked about in terms of when we talk about central idea and topics and arguments, so that way you'll be able to have an idea of what you missed. The materials that we're starting to utilize, there's a word wall that gives you the vocabulary of what we're talking about. Everything is here. It's just that you have to find the time, if you're not in class, to take a look at what's here. So for today, we're going to be in groups. There'll be 2 groups, and we're going to continue exercising our skill of being able to discuss what is conflict and what is central idea in a story. The story that we're going to be reading together is called 3 Questions. And in order for me to ensure that there's some form of understanding of the text, I'm going to do a read aloud for us so that we have some type of background information on this story, and then you'll be going into your groups. When you get into your groups, there'll be 2 Jamboards, and let me show you that. So there are 2 Jamboards. Depending on the group you fall into, you'll be working on answering the question at hand. I'll show you the first Jamboard. So the first Jamboard is on the central idea. It's a yellow Post-it. What I urge you to do is to take another Post-it, and I'm assuming the students can take a Post-it, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay, I think so. That's what I saw.
Yes, they can.
We'll pull a Post-it from the left-hand corner, place it onto the page, and you'll be able to answer your questions, okay? And I want both students, or how many students are in that group, to take their own Post-it. It is set up so that you can edit the page, meaning all of you can write on this at once. However, when it is time to turn it in, you will have to make a copy, like we've been doing, and turn it in, okay? And I think you do that by going up to File, and then you're going to have to, I think they have to save it, yes? Am I right? No, you know what? Don't worry about it. I think that's where I made a mistake. I thought they could make your own copy when you're done. You're going to—
Ms. Morris, sorry, the best thing for them to do is whatever post they write, to make sure to include their names.
No, that's what I'm going to do.
You will see it.
Right, that's what I'm going to do. I was going to say, you're going to have your name on your Post-it. What I wanted to do, what I envisioned, because I didn't want to have them have their own copy each, and then they couldn't write on together, right? I was going to have them make their own copy like we do with Google Docs, but it seems as if with the Jamboard, that's a little bit more difficult. So I just need them to make sure their name is under Post-it and they'll get credit for the work. So with that said, each group will have 2 different questions. The yellow group will talk about central idea, while the green group will talk about conflict. So there are 2 separate questions. It's on the same story. We're starting out with the same story. Another time when we go into groups, you'll be getting 2 different stories and 2 different tasks. But I believe that, you have to start small before you go further. So today it's baby steps. We read a story together, you go off into 2 different groups, and you have 2 different foci, 2 different things that you're focusing on from the same story. So depending on what group you land in, you'll be asked to click on that Jamboard based on the color. And then in your groups, Miss Williams will be with one, Mr. Cruz will be with one. I'll go between both groups. And your goal is to take a Post-it, write your name on it, and answer this question.
Ms. Morris, sorry to interrupt you. Click on those 3 little dots next to share. That's where make a copy and save is.
Perfect, thank you. I was like, where is that make a copy? Lovely, thank you, Mr. Cruz.
You're welcome.
Mr. Cruz found where you can make a copy. So when it is time, when the time comes and I'm like, okay, guys, it's time for you to make your copy, put your name on it and send it and turn it in, you're going to go to the 3 dots on the right-hand side. You will see a drop-down menu that says make a copy. By now, we all know how to make a copy. Emmanuel, are you here?
Yes.
So you see where you will make a copy when you're finished with your group work?
Yes.
Okay. Ajifatu,
Yes.
where do you go to get your Post-it so that you're able to write on the Jamboard? Where would I go to click to get the Post-it?
Those 3 little dots on top there.
Okay, so do you see any Post-its here on the 3 little dots?
No, I have to go
Okay.
and click make a copy.
I'll remind you. You're going to come over here where you see these tools on the left-hand corner, and this little square here with the lines is the Post-it. It says sticky
Yeah.
note. See that?
If I want to make a copy, I have to go down there, right?
Yeah, so to make a copy, which is what I asked Emmanuel, you will go to the 3 little dots. But I asked you, where do you go to get your Post-it so that you can write?
Okay.
That was what I asked. You get your Post-it here. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
okay.
then Matthew, can you hear me? Matthew, are you there?
Yes. Yeah.
How many groups are we going to have today? How many groups am I splitting you guys into today?
2.
Thank you. And based on whatever color you get, that's the answer you respond to, correct?
Yeah.
Now, after you finish responding, you've took your Post-it, you've answered your question, make sure your name is on the Post-it. How are you going to get this turned into me? Do you remember?
No.
Okay, so after you're finished working in the group and it's time to turn it in, you're going to go to the 3 little dots on the right-hand corner here next to share. Do you see it?
Yeah.
And you're going to go down to make a copy. All right, and we do like we usually do. You're going to
Write your name.
write your name, save it. Then you're going to go back to the assignment. You know how to add an assignment and turn it in, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we got that down. So let's begin. We're going to start by reading out loud the story 3 questions. When you're in your group, feel free to refer to the story. Just so you know, the story is within the assignment section of what we're doing today, as well as there is a section on the classwork page called short stories. The first story there is called 3 questions. So you have 2 places to get the story if you need to go back and look at your evidence and use something from that to put inside your answer, because you always have to give evidence. After you've identified whether it be central idea or a conflict, you need to find a quote that says this is where we see conflict, that type of conflict, or this is where we see the argument of the central idea. Are we clear on that, guys? Matthew, Adrian, Emmanuel, are we clear on that?
Yes.
Yes, miss.
So make sure you understand you're getting your story either from here, 3 questions, or you'll find it in the cluster of assignments when we go to our groups. So are we ready to listen to the story 3 questions?
Yes.
Give the thumbs up, yes, no, okay, perfect. 3 Questions by Leo Tolstoy. It once occurred to a certain king that if he always knew the right time to begin everything, if he knew who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid, and above all, if he always knew what was the most important thing to do, he would never fail in anything he might undertake. And here's a picture of the king, okay? And this thought having occurred to him, he had it proclaimed throughout his kingdom that he would give a great reward to anyone who would teach him what was the right time for every action, and who were the most necessary people, and how he might know what was the most important thing to do. So I pause here for a second. One of you, depending on the group you're in, you're going to have to identify a type of conflict, okay? And so far, the story is telling us that the king is worried about who he should be listening to, who he should take advice from, who are the best people to surround himself with. If you were to take a guess now, I know the story just started, but if you were to take a guess at what type of conflict so far we see in the story, what would come to mind, guys? What do you think the type of conflict is so far in this story?
Character to self.
Character to self. And why do we think it's character to self?
Because the king has problem like
God
trusting
thinks
others.
Right, and that's an internal conflict, right? He has to make a decision about who he can trust, correct? We
Yes.
agree on that? Good. That's what I want. When you guys go into your groups, you want to be able to explain that to me, all right? So once you've identified, if you end up in a conflict group, some of you are not going to be in a conflict group, you're going to be in the essential idea group. But when you tell me what type of conflict, I need to know why. I need a specific concrete example. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Okay, just so you know what's going on, we are going to be going into 2 groups this morning. I'm doing the read aloud of the story that you guys will be looking at in your groups. It's called three stories. And then, did somebody say something? Oh,
3 questions.
3 questions. Sorry, I said, what did I say? 3 stories?
Yes.
And then from there, you'll be trying to either identify what the conflict is, the main conflict is, because we've learned that sometimes there's more than one conflict in a story. The main conflict is determined by how much evidence we see. And I use a fancy term, preponderance of evidence, right? And then central idea, depending on the group you're in. So we just started, haven't started that long ago. And so far, the king is having an issue where he's trying to figure out who he should trust around him while he rules the kingdom, okay? Just so you're caught up. You follow me, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think Alexander just joined us. Buenos dias, Alexander. Good morning, Alexander. All right, let me continue. So I'll start over. And this thought having occurred to him, he had it proclaimed throughout his kingdom that he would give a great reward to anyone who would teach him what was the right time for every action, and who were the most necessary people, and how he might know what was the most important thing to do. And learned men came to the king, but they all answered his questions differently. In reply to the first question, some said that to know the right time for every action, one must draw up in advance a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to it. So one of the suggestions is that he sets up a schedule each day, and he takes a look at that and he follows that routine. Okay, that's what you're saying. Only thus, said they, could everything be done at its proper time. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action, but that, not letting oneself be absorbed in idle pastimes, one should always attend to all that was going on, and then do what was most needful. Others again said that however attentive the king might be to what was going on, it was impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action, but that he should have a council of wise men who would help him to fix the proper time for everything. So there's a lot of unpacking here in this part of the story. But let's say we talk about central idea. Let's say we talk about what it is the king is wants right now, and what are some of the different advice that he's getting. Can someone tell me one type of advice that he's being told he should follow in order to be able to have good people around him? And if you need me to, I can reread that part. But can somebody give me an example of what are one of some of the advice that he's getting right now in this portion of the story? And I'll wait before I volunteer someone.
And year and must live strictly according to it. One gave the suggestion.
I can't hear you, Ajifatu. Can you speak a little bit louder?
I said one gave the suggestion that he should like a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to it.
Exactly. A table of days must strictly live according to it. Good morning. So he's basically saying, someone saying, set up a schedule, right? Set up a daily schedule. And then from there, you'll know what you're doing. Good. So we're able to identify within this paragraph, right? We're able to identify within this paragraph some examples of central idea. All right. Thank you so much. Let's continue. But then again, others said there were some things which could not wait to be laid before a council, but about which one had at once to decide whether to undertake them or not. But in order to decide that, one must know beforehand what was going to happen. It is only magicians who know that, and therefore, in order to know the right time for every action, one must consult magicians. So basically one saying, hey, it's impossible for you to know that, right? Only people who have magic and can tell the future will be able to tell you exactly, what you need to do every time for the future. Equally, various were the answers to the second question. Some said the people of the king most needed were his counselors, others the priests, others the doctors, while some said the warriors were the most necessary. So again, people are giving different perspectives and telling the king, you know what? You need your counselors. No, you need your priests. No, you need your doctors. They're all giving reasons of why he should have certain people around him. To the third question, so as to what was the most important occupation, some replied that the most important thing in the world was science. Others said it was a skill in warfare, and others again that it was religious worship. All the answers being different, the king agreed with none of them and gave the reward to none. But still,
Miss Morris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Ali, I can hear you. Good morning.
Miss Morris, my mic is not working and I'm not hearing you guys.
Okay, could someone write in the chat for Ali, please, and tell him we can hear him? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I lost my where
Can
was
someone
I?
hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you, Ali. We're going to type in the chat. Okay, where was I? I think I started off at all the answers,
But
right?
I'm not hearing you guys, Miss Cruz.
Okay. The hermit lived, I'm sorry, where was I? Oh, can somebody remind me where I was? I lost my train of thought. Was it to all the answers being different, right?
Yes.
All right, all the answers being different, the king agreed with none of them and gave the reward to no one. But still wishing to find the right answers to his questions, he decided to consult a hermit, widely renowned for his wisdom. The hermit lived in a wood which he never quitted, and he received none but common folk. So the king put on simple clothes, and before reaching the hermit's cell, dismounted from his horse and leaving his bodyguard behind, went on alone. When the king approached, the hermit was digging the ground in front of his hut. Seeing the king, he greeted him and went on digging. The hermit was frail and weak, and each time he stuck his spade into the ground and turned a little earth, he breathed heavily. The king went up to him and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I most need, and to whom should I therefore pay attention than to the rest? And what affairs are the most important and need my first attention? The hermit listened to the king, but answered nothing. He just spat on his hand and recommenced digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work a while for you. Thanks, said the hermit. And giving the spade to the king, he sat down on the ground. And just a side note, guys, do we know what a hermit is? Anybody ever heard the term hermit?
No.
Okay, a hermit is someone who goes off and lives on their own by themselves. They lock away from society. They don't want to socialize with anyone. They choose to live in seclusion, locked up away, okay, from everyone else. So just giving you an idea of who this person is that the king went to see. When he had dug 2 beds, the king stopped and repeated his questions. The hermit again gave no answer, but rose, stretched out his hand for the spade, and said, "Now rest a while and let me work a bit." But the king did not give up the spade and continued to dig. 1 hour passed and another. The sun began to sink behind the trees, and the king at last stuck the spade into the ground and said, "I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me none, tell me so, and I will return home." "Here comes someone running," said the hermit. "Let us see who it is." The king turned around and saw a bearded man come running out of the wood. The man held his hands pressed against his stomach, and blood was flowing under his arm or from under them. When he reached the king, he fell fainting on the ground, moaning feebly. The king and the hermit unfastened the man's clothing. There was a large wound in his stomach. The king washed it as best as he could and bandaged it with his handkerchief and with a towel the hermit had. But the blood would not stop flowing, and the king again and again removed the bandage soaked with warm blood and washed and rebandaged the wound. When at last the blood ceased flowing, the man revived and asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him.
Miss Cruz, I can hear you now.
Good, good. Good to know, Ali. Meanwhile, the sun had set and it had become cool. So the king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. Lying on the bed, the man closed his eyes and was quiet. But the king was so tired with his walk and with the work he had done that he crouched down on the threshold and fell asleep, so soundly that he slept all through the short summer night. When he awoke in the morning, it was long before he could remember where he was, or who was a strange bearded man lying on the bed and gazing intently with his shining eyes. "Forgive me," said the bearded man in a weak voice, when he saw that the king was awake and was looking at him. "I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for," said the king. "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who you swore to revenge himself on you because you executed his brother and seized his property. I knew you had gone alone to see the hermit, and I resolved to kill you on your way back. But the day passed and you did not return. So I came out with my ambush to find you, and I came upon your bodyguard, and they recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from them, but should have bled to death, but had you not dressed my wound. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life. Now, if I live, and if you wish it, I will serve you as your most faithful slave, and will bid you, my sons, to do the same. Forgive me." The king was very glad to have made peace with his enemy so easily, and had to have gained him for a friend. And he not only forgave him, but said he would send his servants and his own physician to attend to him, and promised to restore his property. So based on what we're hearing so far, could anybody make a prediction of where we think the king is going to do next? How do you think this ex-enemy, this former enemy, is going to change in terms of how he relates to the king? Do we think that maybe he's going to become very important in the king's life? Anybody think so?
Mm-hmm.
And remember when the king was trying to figure out who he should have around him, who should be he should trust? Do you think that maybe this ex-enemy could become someone he could trust?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Having taken leave of the wounded man, the king went out into the porch and looked around for the hermit. But before going away, he wished once more to beg an answer to the question he had put. The hermit was outside on his knees, sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king approached him and said, "For the last time, I pray you to answer my questions, wise man." You have already been answered," said the hermit. still crouching on his thin legs and looking up at the king who stood before him. How answered? What do you mean? Asked the king. Do you not see? Replied the hermit. If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug those beds for me, but had gone your way, that man would have attacked you, and you would have repented of not having stayed with me. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when that man ran to us, the most important time was when you were attending to him. For if you had not bound up his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Remember then, there is only one time that is important, and that is now. It is the most important time.
I cannot hear you.
Yes, you're muted.
Sorry, I think Mr. Cruz muted me by accident. Okay. Where did you guys hear last? What's the last part you guys heard?
Remember, then there is
Remember then. Okay. Remember then, there is only one time that is important. Now. It is the most important time because it is the only time when we have any power. The most necessary man is he with whom you are, for no man knows whether he will ever have dealings with anyone else. And the most important affair is to do him good, because for that purpose alone was man sent into this life. And that is the end of the 3 questions. So the end of the story, or the moral of the story, or what the hermit is telling us, is the most important time is now. And the most important people are the people who we get to work with and meet and talk to and spend time with now. And it is our goal, or it should be our goal, to do good to people that we have around us now. Do we understand that, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's a very profound, deep lesson there. Now, again, we got to read 3 questions. We saw what the issue was for the king. We saw what type of advice he was getting from, people that came that were going to get the reward to give him an answer. And we ultimately got the answer that the hermit, who did not, request anything in return, gave him at the end. And we also saw how he was able to help an enemy. All right. So at this point, what's going to happen is you're going to be placed into 2 groups. How many people do we have here now, guys?
we have 8.
Perfect. So we have a even amount, right? We're going to put 4 in one group and 4 in the other. And I'm going to quickly remind folks what the instructions are. So everyone has short story 3 questions as the 4th assignment under unit 2. Depending on what color Mr. Cruz assigns you to, so you got to listen up. When you go to that breakout room, you will have to pull up that Post-it. So here are the 2 Post-its, or the 2 Jamboards. If you end up in the green group, you will go into your Google Classroom and you will pull up this Jamboard on what is the main conflict in the story, 3 questions. Include evidence from the text to complete your answer. And for those of you who are not here, you will go to the left-hand side where you see me hovering with the hand, and you will pull your Post-it like that. And you will write your name and type in your answer, and then you can post it on the whiteboard, okay? And when you're ready, after we're finished and I say, you got to turn it in, you will go to the 3 dots on the right-hand side and make a copy, put your name on it, and turn it in. If you end up with the yellow group, your focus will be the central idea. What was the story trying to tell us? What was the message here that the 3 questions was trying to teach us? And you will do the same thing. You will grab your Post-it, click on it. You can choose your color, write your name, state what that is, and give me an example and post it. And then when you're done, you will click those 3 dots, make your copy, and turn it in. Ms. Williams and Mr. Cruz will be with you, so they'll be able to either A, project the story, or at the very least, remind you on how to grab your Post-it and how to turn it in. So you'll be getting some help. But do we all understand right now what we're going to do?
Yes.
All right. So we ready to get into these groups?
Woohoo!
All right. So this should not take you more than 7 to 8 minutes because you're not reading the story again. You're just finding the evidence to support whatever you put on your Post-it. And please remember to write your name. So Mr. Cruz, whenever you're ready, you
Okay,
can.
so Ms. Morris, you're gonna be green,
All right, perfect.
and Ms. Williams will be yellow.
Okay. So you can.
And I've selected the students that will be going with you guys right now.
All right.
Once I close the rooms, it'll be closed in 30 seconds. Let's not waste time because time is running out.
Perfect.
Okay, bye guys.